Hi everyone. So I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, great. Sorry for this tech hiccups which we faced.
It's okay, sir.
So,
So
hi
I'll just
everyone.
introduce you first and then we'll start it up, sir.
Sure.
Yeah. A warm good morning to one and all present. I welcome you all for the Tech Ensemble Rethink the Technology Way webinar series. Today we have amongst us a dynamic personality, Mr. Sujit Thakur, co-founder, Duglo Infosystem Private Limited. Sir will be addressing on the topic early jobs in startup versus MNC. On behalf of Kaylee BCA family, I welcome you, sir. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our today's key speaker, Mr. Sujit Thakur. Sir has developed and built business from startup to establish a strong client base across sectors ranging from education, healthcare, IT, e-commerce, media, real estate, and many more. He's increased the flow of projects over year by leveraging referenceable accounts to build credibility and introducing new strategies into business development and project management. Sir has produced 80% of all new business through referrals, fostered excellence relationship and referrals by building and rapport with customers. Sir has also improved sales policies and practices, defined the sales cycle, created accurate job descriptions and development standards for customer relationship management. With this brief introduction, I once again welcome you, sir. Over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the nice introduction. And hey everyone. So I'm sorry I'm going to bore you for next half an hour. And sorry for this hiccups which we faced now. Thank you team, and thanks the college for inviting me into this. So as per the today's topic, we have to discuss on startups versus MNCs and the early jobs in that. So I hope everybody is into tech here. So this BCA college, right? So we have only tech students or we have other students as well? Just a question.
So these are only BCA students?
Okay. Yeah. So everybody is into tech.
Technical, yeah. All are technical students.
Yeah. So then I can straight away get into a tech startup.
Sure, sir. Yeah.
Okay, great. So considering tech startup, so first let us define what is a tech startup. So tech startup is any company which brings any technology products or services to market, right? So these companies deliver new technology products or services and try to provide services which is either existing in a new way. So that's a startup. Then when these startups start earning revenue and build a scalable business model, then it becomes a big company. And when it starts spreading into multiple countries, it becomes an MNC. So that's the base difference between startup and MNC. Okay. So anything like Infosys in 1980s, it was a startup. If you take Google, Microsoft, any company, when it starts with one person or two person with two co-founders, and then they take this journey, build a scalable product, take more people, get investors, and then build a big company. So then there is a huge difference between startup and MNC. Okay. Now for jobs. Now, because you people, you might be passing this year or maybe next year. So you might be thinking whether I should join a startup or I should join an MNC. So I'll just tell you based on my experience. So I started almost 10 years back. I came to Bangalore. So I have worked with both MNCs, startups, and then as I was introduced, I built my own startup almost 6 years ago. We built up our products and services into multiple industries. Plus, we have our client across all range. We have clients in startups. people who are just starting, like even the college student who are passing out and they need some kind of solutions for them. They get funding and then they move ahead. Or big MNCs. So we have worked with Wipro. Wipro is our client. We have worked with NTPC. Those are our client. So we know, we have seen both the cultures, right? So based on my experience, I'll tell you, because there's no one solution fits all. Whether startup or MNC, that's a dilemma for everyone. It remains for everyone. It is based on your individual choice, what you want to achieve in future. So first, let me take you few of the features between startup and MNCs, so that you'll come to know that, okay, what you are looking for and how you can decide on that whether you want to go ahead with a startup company or an MNC company. So it depends on your individual personality. First, let's say innovation. Okay, let us take some points. So in a startup, you have the opportunity to suggest any big idea. People will hear you because people will be limited. Let's say if you are joining a company which is having just 10 people, or let's say 30 people, 50 people. So you are one of those 50 people. You can suggest your idea because you all are from tech. You can suggest your idea that, hey, there's a new idea for database management. Why don't we try this in our startup? There's a new idea for app development, for digital marketing, for SEO, for other stuffs. Your voice will be heard in a startup environment. But if you are going to any MNC, so MNC is following a process since years. Following that rigid process over the years, even if you suggest something, it is more likely to get lost, because there are several hierarchies in an MNC. So you won't be heard so easily. It might go to your team leader. Like if you are joining now, you'll be joining as a fresher, whether it's a startup or MNC. So even if you are a fresher in a startup, you will have access and people will be listening you. But in an MNC, you might say it to your team leader and then it will get lost. Those ideas will get nowhere. So that's like opportunity of innovation is less in case of MNC. It's not like it is not there, but it is very difficult to access the leadership team in MNC. While in a startup, you will work with them. Now, coming to recognition. So for example, if you are working with a startup, everybody knows what you have worked on and what you have involved in. So if you are doing anything good, you will get praise from all of them. Similarly, if you are doing anything bad, you should be ready to get like, you can say, rage of everyone. So because startups, everything is too crucial. So you get recognized for doing good thing or even bad thing. Similarly, in case of MNC, there are preset hierarchies. For example, let's say in startup, you have access to individuals, you have access to your team leaders, you have access to even the founders. Plus, you have access to clients. Because in startup, they don't have a fixed set of hierarchy or fixed set of management. Everybody is doing everything. So sometimes they will directly put you in touch with clients. So you can gain client communication and other kind of stuffs. Okay, but in case of MNCs, you will be given a fixed set of work. You will be keep doing that work. Okay, you might not get recognized because in MNCs, whatever happens, if any good thing happens, manager is recognized. If a bad thing happens, employee is recognized. So that's where MNC politics work on. Only senior managers will have access to clients, or senior team leaders will have access to clients. So they will get recognized that, okay, these people have made this project successful or made this service successful compared to a startup. So startup is a self-motivated work culture also. So any new project or new task comes, you have to do a lot of, you can say, digging. You have to go to YouTube, you have to go to Google, Stack Overflow, scratch your head and then find a solution. But in case of MNC, it's a target-based approach. So several people are working on small part of a big machinery. And that machinery is already laid out since years. So you don't have to work on anything new. You don't have to scratch your head. You already have process manuals for everything. So that's where in startup, it's a self-motivation that, okay, if you are motivated to learn more, you can work on good projects and you can like get deep knowledge into anything. Instead, in MNC, you are just part of a big task. So you will specialize on that particular task in a good way, but you won't know as a whole that why it is working. So in MNCs, they will just teach you how it is working and get you running on that. So you just know how a specific task will work. So for example, if because you all are from tech, so let's say in database, so if we are talking about a mobile application, for example, so in mobile application, there are multiple channels. Somebody will be doing designing, somebody will be doing prototyping, someone should be doing backend. In backend also, somebody will be doing database and admin panel for it, APIs creation for it, and then API integration will be done by a mobile app guy. If it's a startup, sometimes all of this stuff will be done by only single guy. He can only write APIs, he can only create a simple database, he can only create a prototype, can go to Paint or any other tools, create some prototype, show it to client, looks good, design his own app from scratch, code it, deliver to client. But in case of MNCs, for design, there is a specific team in which 10 people are there. One is only for creating the wireframe. He'll be good at wireframe, he can't create mockups. One will be good at mockups. He can create very good mockups, he can't create APIs. You will be good at database creation, so you'll keep creating database for whole 5 years and 10 years. But in startup, you will be doing everything. So you know about all these stuff. Then flexible work schedules are there in startups. So you got some personal issue, you can directly call your owner or founder or whoever is your HR that, hey, I got this problem, I will be late today. You can go late sometime, you can leave late sometime, you can work accordingly. Plus, because of this flexible work schedule, it's good and bad also. Like people, sometime when you have deliveries, so we have done like that. Even day before yesterday, we were working till 3 o'clock because we had a delivery yesterday, even though it was a holiday for us. So that happens in startups where you have a tight dead schedule and you have to work for a lot because there is no fixed process set. It is very difficult to assume in the beginning what can go wrong in the project. That's what the difference between a startup and MNC. In the MNCs, they have fixed set of structure where they know where things can go wrong. They have built it through years. That's why it becomes too rigid. Compared to timings, as I was talking about, so in startup, there's no timing fix. It's a flexible timing. Someday you people might be watching a movie together and someday you might be working till night 12 o'clock together. In MNCs, they have some strict timing that, okay, 10 o'clock you have to come. If you are late by 15 minutes, sometimes they even make it half day. That depends on some of the companies, which allow, which not allow, depends on organization to organization. So, and some of the MNCs, there also, if you have a delivery, you have to work late, you have to finish it faster, things like that. Now, if I talk about personal growth, so that completely depends on individual to individual. Like as I told, in startup, you will be trained across everything. It's not like you have joined as a mobile application developer, you will be doing only that part. You might be working on the API stuff. Sometime your team can even tell you that, hey, can you do digital marketing for us? Can you start working on SEO? Anything. So that's where your personal growth is also related, because you might join with some specific skill set or with specific interest, but you have access to other stuffs as well, that you will come to know that, hey, instead of mobile application developer, I am good at database designing. Why don't I choose database designing as my career? or I'm good at quality analysis, so why don't I make my career into QA field? So that's the level of personal growth which you have access in a startup. But in MNC, as I told, you will be bound to only one stuff. But that's not always true if you have passion from the 10 to 5 or 10 to 6, whatever is your work time. Apart from that, you can learn many more new things. And then you can always tell your manager if any other projects are there, they would be able to ship that. So not all MNCs, or not every time in MNC you are bound to it, but it's like you have to work on your own. In startup, you are in that culture that you will be bound to learn more things. Then transparency is there in case of startups. So whatever is happening with client, with project, it is shared with everyone in the team. So everybody knows what is happening, and every inputs matter in startup. Hello. Yeah. So this matters. Every input matters in case of startup. So they will take your input. They will ask you how it works. They will ask your suggestion. In MNC, it's not like that. Team leaders or managers will ask your suggestion and then may represent, because that politics, they may represent it is as their suggestion or their inputs, and can get more benefits instead of you. So the person who has innovated any idea, he might not get recognition, but the person who is in top of that hierarchy will get all the benefits out of it. Then some of the bad thing is in startup, I won't say bad thing, again it's personal, individual to individual choice, that you will have enhanced responsibility. So whatever you do, you will be responsible and accountable for that task, and you have to do that completely. Okay. But in case of MNC, you have a very good set of team members. You will have that support that, okay, whatever has to be done, other 10 people are also doing that, and they will be able to guide you and support you on that part. In startup, you have to learn on your own. Very rare you will get a senior who will be guiding you, because he'll also be working on the delivery. So in startup also, whether it's a tech product startup or a tech service startup, that depends. So in a tech product startup, you are still safe. Safe in the sense, because you know a fixed set of features you have to work on. And you will define a sprint and the deadlines for that and work accordingly. But tech services startup is fully into chaos. Every time a new complaint from clients, support error, something. So it's full, I can say, hayway. Things will keep on running every time. You go and patch one thing, something else will break on other stuff. You have to keep working on all the stuff. Then coming to job security. So like many people have asked me in the past also, so how secure is our startup or MNC in terms of job? Like I can say that in like 95 or even more than that, 98% of startup fails. As soon as they start, within first 6 months, 95% gets closed. By the end of year, the other 3% gets closed. Very few startups survive till 5 years. Okay, most of them close in 2 or 3 years. Founder will be giving job application going, and not only small startups, very big startups. Forget about this year, because this year it's bad for everyone due to this corona. So all business across the global, it is going into loss. Okay. But if we compare the past year data or any data, you would have seen many of the big startups in India, they raised millions of dollars in fundings and later they had to shut down. So that's like job security in startup is very less compared to an MNC, because MNC knows how to tackle problem. That's what they learned in all these years. Startup, it gets chaos. So whenever they start fixing one problem, they get other problems. So the person who has mastered this art, or the startup who mastered this art, they become a big company and then they take their startup to multinational level. So that job security and job surety is much more. It's not like MNCs are always 100% secure. There also you might have heard news always every year or every couple of years that, okay, IBM has laid off 5,000 employees. Infosys has laid off 2,000 employees, Accenture's 20,000 employees, like that. But yes, compared to startup, you are more safe, more secured in case of a MNC environment. If we go to salary package, we all know startups, until unless they funded by any big investors or VC, they will always have this cash crunch or fund problem. So this fund problem will always be there, where they will not be able to give you a high package. But the other pros, as I told you, will be able to learn more. MNCs will give you a very good handsome package in the beginning, but that depends on the appraisals also. In startups, you will get good appraisal if you recognize, because you are directly working with founders. So if you are working with founders, startups is performing well, you get good chance of appraisals. Like even us, we as a company, we have given 50 to 60% also in appraisals for our employees. Some of our employees, not all, because as they told, with startups, you have a small team and you get easy recognition. But in case of MNCs, like as I have worked in both, even after performing very good, you might get 8 to 10%, and that's very good in MNC, if I'm telling you. If you get 10% appraisal staying in a company, you are getting very good in that. But in startup, 25, 30, even 50, that is good, but even zero also is there, because if revenue is not there, product is going down, no people are purchasing, they won't have any funds to pay you, right? Then MNC is having brand recognition. So let's say tomorrow you will be, any of your relatives or anybody is asking, hey, where do you work? If you say I worked in IBM, or let's say, I'm not promoting IBM though, just for this example I'm telling. So IBM or Infosys, everybody will know that, yeah, he is working in a good company. But if you say any small company started with 20, 50 people, they might even not know. They'll say, okay, yeah, things are going fine, okay, keep doing that. So there you will get a very good recognition in your marriage also. You all will be marrying maybe in next 5 years, 10 years or so. So if you're working in MNC, you have a brand value that, okay, this guy, my son-in-law is working in XYZ company. He went to US 10 times. He went to this UK 15 times and that kind of thing. But it's not there in startup. In startup, you might not even go to other city. So if you're working in Bangalore, you might be working in Bangalore for next 5 years. Nobody even knows. So that's with the on-site opportunities, because startups, they may not be working into multiple cities or multiple countries. They will be operating from one place. So you will have less opportunities to travel any on-site. Then other perks are also limited in case of startup. Some of these startups provide free food sometime. But in case if you are working in an MNC, you have a lot of perks. You have cabs, or let's say you might get a car from a company. You will get coupons, Sodexo and all kind of things which you can use in different places. You will get all different means of commutation, yearly holidays. You can take your families to multiple places with all on the company's cost. Foods, hotels, everything will be taken care of by company. So MNC provides those perks to you. Then if we say in other term, like let's say flexibility of saying no to anyone, in startup it is not there. So if you are being provided with a task, or if you are being provided with a project, you have to do that. You don't have any other choice other than you can leave that company. MNC, you have the choice. Let's say you are working in a project. If you don't like that project, you can approach your project manager. Few of the company does that to make their employee feel good. So they provide them an option that, okay, you can come to us. you can prove that, okay, you would be able to do any other specific project in a better way compared to this one, we'll shift your project. So it's like that in some of the MNC. So that kind of flexibility is there in MNC, which is not there in startup. There you can't say no to anything because nobody else is there to do it. In MNC, you might have 10 people sitting in bench to work on that part, but not in startup. Then work-life balance. So if you are in startup, there's no work-life balance. There's no Saturday, Sunday. I'm not scaring you. I'm just telling you the real picture of a startup, because anytime if a client is facing issue, and if that is a critical issue, whether it's Sunday, Saturday, you might have, there was a meme a couple of years back. I'm not sure if you would have seen that. A person was sitting in footbath with his laptop open and he was working on something. He was fixing these bugs and client related issues. So they don't even spare him working on, like, while going to home also. They need immediate fix. So these kind of condition not there every time, but yes, in service or even in product, that happens sometimes. So last week, if you are following the news closely, you would have heard about this Paytm getting blocked from Google Play Store because of some issues in the policy. They added some game feature in their mobile app. That was a holiday. They have uploaded that app, and that app got rejected from Play Store. They have turned down their app. Think about the engineers that time. They will be in so huge chaos that they have to immediately replace all the things, fix everything, and then again re-upload the app. So that can happen anytime, whether it's on Saturday, Sunday. That's the thing with startup. So there's no work-life balance. I won't say no every time, but yeah, most of the time, no work-life balance in case of startup. In MNC also it happens, but very rarely. So let's say if in terms of percentage, 5% will be a chance in MNC where you might be working on Saturdays or Sundays or post your work time. But in startup, 40% you will be enjoying your holidays, 60% you will be working on that. So these are few of the pointers which, like, based on my experience, which I have put it here. I'll just put one thing, that one liner, that startup needs a leader. So the person who can do everything, who can lead a team, who can innovate new ideas. Startups need that kind of person, and MNC needs a manager who is very good at managing time, very good in managing deadlines, very good in managing the resources, managing the staff, managing the work pressure. So that's the difference. Nothing is good or bad. Both have their own individual choices. That individual choices can depend on your perspective, your priorities, your aspirations. There are pros and cons in both corporates and startups. Like, it depends on you. So for example, in this 3-year or 4-year, whatever is your course duration is going to be, some of you might be doing masters, or some of you would have already done masters. So then, for example, let's say in that course of time, you found out that you are better working independently, and you are working like better comfortable, or work better if you are being independent. You can innovate new things, you can search for things good. Then you should go for a startup, because that will be a good environment for you. If some of you feel that, okay, I can't work independently, I need a guidance, I need a hand holding, I need a team kind of structure, you should go for an MNC. That you have to think, this question should be within your own. What kind of environment you like? Money comes secondly. See, at this time of your life, you should not think about money. Obviously, you should not be working for free, but you should not think about money. That is my suggestion. Everybody can give their own suggestions and priorities. But initial 3 years or 5 years, you should give to learn new things. because whatever you have years or 10 years, if you are working on, like you have done PU college or something, so those 10-12 years whatever you have spent, plus post that in your graduation, in your masters, whatever time you have spent, that is completely different than the real corporate culture or than the real startup culture. When you come into a working environment, you will see whatever you have learned till now sometime might not be even used there. And many people will say that you can get inputs from anybody who is working, who have worked for few years into any company. They will say hardly 2%, or I can say 2% is also more, of your knowledge which you are gaining now will work there. Rest, it will depends on how you are as a person, what kind of cultural values you have. Coding you can learn because you have been learning and you have been working on these things since years now. You can easily learn a new language. So today, let's say you would have worked in Java in your college projects or your college environment, you would have learned Java, C++, C, and if you have to learn Node, that's not a big task. Hardly 1 month, 15 days, depending on you. Some of you would have already started. Some of you might be doing already freelance working. Many of the college student does that. And some of you would have done presented very good projects in some of your science these seminars and other different kind of competitions. So that's good, so that you can easily learn a new language. But how you define person as a whole will depend whether you are joining a startup or MNC. Whether you can easily take, let's say, any kind blame of anyone just for funny. So if you are able, if anybody is blaming you and you suddenly get aggregated, then MNC is not for you, because junior people will get blamed for anything in MNCs. I've worked in MNCs, I know that they will not get appreciated. They might get appreciated 1% of the time. That also nobody will recognize for that appreciation, but 99% blaming everybody will. Compared, so if you are a person, you get agitated immediately, you should not join an MNC. You should join a startup. If you are a person, as I told you, like working independently, you should join a startup. Or with a small set of team, you should join a startup. If you need a lot of hand holding, you should join an MNC. If you are courageous enough that, okay, if I have given commitment and I will be able to fulfill all that commitment within that provided time, you should join a startup. Then you should ask a question to yourself, like, where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? A lot of HRs ask this question during interviews. So there it depends, like, what you want to do. So whether you are thinking to open your own company or your own organization in 5 years or 10 years down the lane, you definitely have to work in a startup. At least work for 3 to 5 years. Get to know how founders, like how they take all the chaos, they solve all the problems. They have to do 20 different things at a time. So in a startup, we are HR ourselves, we are finance ourselves, we are like, even sometime you might even have to go outside for sales, marketing, everything you have to do yourself. Obviously, when you hire someone, then you have hired him for a fixed task. But if you are opening your own startup as a founder, startup founder, you have to do all the things. You might start working in the sales. You might end up doing PPT for business development, and you might be creating a financial report for this year AGM. So everything is possible. So that's where you have to think where you want to see yourself. So you want to see yourself a settled life, that, okay, I want to go to US, settle down there, no tension, go to Bahamas, enjoy in beach, go join an MNC. It's not like startup, you can't do that. Once your startup gets heavily funded, you get recognition, obviously you can do there. But that's the difference. Then you have to take care of your family condition also. Like many of you may God forbid should not be there, but if somebody is having some family conditions where he need to start earning a lot of money from the first month, some of you might have loan, some of you might not have that kind of risk appetite, you should join an MNC, get stable for that year. It's not like people who have worked in MNC have not opened a big good startup. It's very good. There also you learn many things, how to manage things properly. You can earn a good amount of money, put your savings together, and then can start a startup from that also. So that's between whether you need to secure your job, or whether you need a stable income, or whether you want to start your own business or learn new things. It's an individual priority. Based on that, you can be able to choose whether you want to switch. And it's like you can keep switching. It's not like if you have joined startup, then you went into hell, or if you have joined MNC, you have all heaven together. You can keep switching, go try out. If things doesn't work out, start giving more interviews. But only one thing, whether you are joining startup or MNC, let's not stop learning. Keep learning. And especially in tech, every day a new technology, new language, new framework is keep on being built by other different communities. Start learning, keep checking, be updated with the latest technologies. You'll never have a problem. So that's what I will conclude with it. In case if you have any questions, so you can ask me.
Students, if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat window.
I think I made everyone sleep, so I'm so sorry for that.
No, sir. Students, any queries, you can put it in the chat window. No, sir.
Okay, I hope I was clear. So that's all depends on you people. Best of luck. So these all are final year students?
Like all 3 years, sir. First year, second and third.
Oh, okay, all 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so best of luck, everyone. There's a huge bright career ahead of you. Choose that wisely and keep taking rest. Like you people have just started, don't take that much rest.
So there's a question. Sir, sometimes startup companies suddenly close up. So what next?
Yeah, so as I told, keep learning. Okay, many a times it will happen that startups company will close up because there's no surety. Startups may run out of funds. Founders might fight. See, in a big MNC, there's a complete structure. They have a board of members. So it's not a one-person company. There might be 50 people, 50 investors who are taking any decision. In case of startup, there might be one guy or two guys, founder, co-founder, who are taking decisions. Sometimes they fight within each other, close the company. Yes, it's a very valid question that if suddenly it's closed down, what is to be done next? Keep yourself upgrading with new technologies. Even while you are working, suggesting new ideas so that you don't get affected with that. So even though if it is get closed, there are a lot of opportunities for tech people. Believe me, even though currently whether we say Corona or what all GDP is going low, for IT there is huge scope. You would have seen IT going multi-fold times within this Corona also. Because business never stops. It just changed the way. Earlier people were meeting face to face, so we were having meetups in a normal environment, or let's say in ground. Now people are meeting online. You would have seen Zoom has grown 350% during this 5-6 years. So then they will require more engineers to work on it. new projects, new different concepts have come. So everyone require new projects. Now India, our government is also helping us by banning these Chinese apps, by banning this so many different kind of structures. Now few days back Google has announced that they will be charging 30%. So our country 30% cut on all the apps. So our country is now going to build their own app store. So how we have a Google Play Store, we will have our own app store. So there are immense and huge opportunities. But you have to keep upgrading. If you, in the initial years, if you stop learning, then you will be having a knowledge of a specific set, and that set might require or not. But if you start knowing about other things also, you'll end up getting job, and very quickly. Even you have an option of freelancing. It's not only that you have to get a job somewhere. You can start your own freelancing stuff and can earn from there. So there are many opportunities. Just keep learning. You don't have to worry where you don't have control. Any other question?
Any other queries, students? So there's one question, sir, by Mohit. Can I start a startup after my graduation without working in any other company?
Yeah, Mohit, very nice question and great question. I'll tell you few of the people. See, India, not only today, we Indians have startups in our mind since generations. If you go to any shop, that tea vendor, he's a startup, right? He has opened his own company, and the tea vendor, I'll say, is much better than Anil Ambani today. Anil Ambani is in billions of dollars or millions of dollars debt. The tea vendor is not in debt. Whether he is earning on a daily basis, hand to mouth structure. So there is no, you can say, like any kind of knowledge or any kind of degree required. Knowledge is obviously required. Degree specifics to start your own company, but that helps. Because if you have a degree, if you know bachelor's and master's, you know where things can go wrong and how to prevent that. Which, if you don't have that degree or if you don't have that knowledge even in your college years, you can still open a startup. You can make it break very, very big. Okay, many of the huge names you take, if you go in Forbes top 100 list, if you see of billionaires across the world or top 100 worthy men across the world, I'll say hardly 20% of them are having a very good qualification. 80% of them might be either school dropout, college dropouts, right? Even you know that. Any big name you take, whether it's a Steve Jobs or whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or anyone, they built a great company without even a college bachelor's or master's degree, with knowledge and with passion, without graduation. But it's always good to have something safe along with you where you can rely upon.
So there's another question, sir, by Nathan. Startup may give us shares instead of salary in some cases.
Yeah, so that's trick of some founders, I will say, where they don't have money or they don't want to pay money. Being also a startup owner myself, I will suggest that not go for all shares, all equity basis, unless until they are your known friends, or unless until you have you trust that idea or you are passionate about that idea. Because sometimes it can really become big. Sometimes those founders can show you that, hey, this is what is going to be. So assess that idea, be flexible, assess that idea, check at least what others are saying, get that idea. And then if you really think assess the market, whether the market need is there or not for that product. Sometimes startup founders might not do research, market research, and within their own mental bubble, they might think that just because they think that this idea is great, this idea is $1 million or $1 billion company idea, everybody will accept that. That doesn't happen. Many times big company failed. Tiny Owl raised so much of amount, failed, right? Orkut. I'm not sure whether you people are aware of Orkut, because you might have been a child at that time. So we had a very great platform before Facebook. It was from Google, Orkut, but it failed. Google Plus. Many of you would have heard about Google Plus, failed completely. So check about that idea, assess, and if you think you are really passionate for it, then you go for all shares. And there also you set a deadline that, okay, I can work without money for 3 months, because in return, I'm getting a good learning from there. In return, you are getting a good network from there. Then you can do that. If you are also willing to open your own startup in future. But if somebody is just taking advantage of you by telling we'll give you shares in future, and this is the work, if it works in future, wherever this if comes, no, try to avoid it, because then those founders are themselves not confident. Startup world is like, you have to be completely dedicated to your work, and you have to be in and out whole day and night into that, and think that yes, we have to make it work completely. So that's where you choose between shares and salary. It all depends on your perspective.
So this question by Varun, like he's a shooting question to you, sir. Like, what is your opinion on creating a startup?
So I have created, so we have 3 companies I have created on my own. Like we have failed. We have created 2 projects, very good products, which we thought like everybody will accept, failed miserably. We again tweaked it, made a different model structure. It is accepted, very good. Like now it is running very fine. So yes, like as a startup founder myself, I'll always encourage you to create your own startup. But as I told, those different perks and different kind of opinions, depending on you, what you like, you can think about going as a opening your own startup, or doing some years of job. I'll suggest to do that. Either work in a startup for at least 1 or 2 years, work in a big MNC for 1 or 2 years, get some market experience, because that will enable you to get networks. That will also enable you to see how things can go wrong, because currently you are very, very like initial stage of your career, where you might be passionate about taking things in a right way. Okay, but there are certain things which are out of our control, which you might not take for today. Okay, you might not be able to analyze today. You will jump into opening a startup. Okay, and then you will end up losing more. So better to get some experience, work with a startup, find a mentor. That is very much important. Find a good mentor who can mentor you in a startup or a company, whom you think that, yeah, this guy is very successful. Successful doesn't always mean that, yeah, he has $1 billion in his account. Successful, somebody can be very successful in communicating to others. Somebody can be very successful in, let's say, selling some items. He can be very successful in creating account sheet or anything. So you find a mentor, you learn from him, and then think whether you want to open your own startup, because you'll get a good experience. So at least my suggestion would be, get some 3 to 4 year experience in market. If that you can divide it in 2 years in a startup, 2 years in an MNC, and then decide whether you want to open your own startup or not. That's very much required. But it's all depends on you. Like if you feel you want to jump in from now, you can jump in from now. Eventually you will learn through your failures also. So,
Sir, there's one last question for you, sir.
uh,
Uh, Mukeshwar is asking you, what did you learn from your failed startups? What are the things you will never repeat, and what you wish you did that might have made it a success?
see, very, very good questions. And like it's complete learning altogether. What we thought is we jumped in very early. Okay, in our failed startup, which I'm talking about, we jumped in very early. We did not had that market research as a whole. We thought because we need this product, everybody will accept that. That was our great learning from those field startup. We spent a lot of time sitting day in, day out, worked for 6 to 7 months, built that startup, spent a huge amount in the marketing. Hardly we got 5% ROI. We were burning more cash for next 6 months in marketing, server space, and other stuff than we were earning from the clients, or then we were onboarding clients. We had to stop. Okay, so do a proper market research, which I will say, which now we have done. Okay, that is the one best thing which we have learned from there. And if you say what we will never repeat, we can't say. See, every startup and every product is a difference. So that will keep on going on and on till you become a very big MNC, and MNC products also fail. So if you say Google after Gmail, they have not created any good product on our own. Post Gmail, whatever you see, either they have acquired other startups and just renamed it because they had this much money. Okay, or they failed miserably. Google Glasses, they they invented a huge product but failed miserably. Okay, PepperTap was a very good startup, if you remember. Failed miserably, closed. Right. So every new thing is a new learning. Okay, you have to learn together, and you'll come to know when you open your own startup. You'll start learning from there. Only thing is few of the you can say few of the items which you should always take care of. You can find in many blogs and many kind of YouTube channels, YouTube videos on entrepreneurship. You should follow that. Okay, and let's learn from the mistakes of others. So that's what I will conclude it.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir,
Thanks a lot.
students, any other queries?
So I think
Yeah. So you want to convey anything, sir, at the end?
so again, I'll again convey the same line which I have conveyed earlier.
Okay.
That startup needs a leader and MNC needs a manager. You have to think where you want to go post your completion of your graduation or masters, whether you want to be a leader eventually or you want to be a good manager. Both are having their pros and cons. Choose wisely and enjoy your life. There's nothing like no risk you will get in both. Okay, everything is a great learning. If you take it like that, you will always succeed in your life.
Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of management, principal, coordinator, and staff, I once again thank you for spending your valuable time with us, sir. It was great listening to you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, sir. Yeah. Bye. Students, will share the feedback link in the chat window. So it will. Yeah, thank you. The feedback link will be shared in the chat window and it will be active only for 5 minutes. Students, once you're done with the feedback filling, you can leave the meeting. Thank you.